Silence all, stand and remain standing. The full court of the Federal Court of Australia is now in session. Be seated, please.
Please call the farewell.
Farewell of the Honourable Justice Murphy.
As you can see, it's a very full house today. The ceremony is taking place on the land of the people of the Eastern Kulin Nation, whose traditional country extends around Port Phillip and Western Port Bays, up to the Great Dividing Range and into the valleys of the Loddon and Goulburn rivers. For countless generations before colonisation, their people walked these lands, cared for their country, and practiced their laws and customs in their languages. I recognise and respect the determination of First Nations peoples to restore and preserve their connection to country, their laws and customs, and their languages. A very warm welcome to all of you who've taken the time to come and farewell our colleague, Justice Murphy. There are many distinguished guests joining us today, and the court is grateful for your attendance. We also welcome Justice Murphy's family. Today is a chance to thank you for the support you've shown to Justice Murphy over the time of his public service on the court. You will also hear how much his service as a judge has been appreciated by others. Justice Murphy, you were appointed to this court over 15 years ago on the 13th of June 2011. Since your appointment, reflecting the professional career which brought you to the court, you have been recognised as one of this court's most prominent class action jurists. You have worked across most of the national practice areas of the court, and you have contributed to the operation of the court through service on many of the court's key committees. You've generously shared your class actions expertise internationally as part of the court's international programs work, in particular under our MOUs with the Supreme Court of Indonesia and the Supreme Court of the Philippines. You have been instrumental in this court's work to encourage greater diversity in the legal profession. You have been a long-time supporter of the Victorian Bar's Indigenous Clerkship Program, which we host together with the Supreme Court of Victoria, and you have mentored many First Nations lawyers through that program. In 2024, your chambers also hosted one of the inaugural interns in the Diversity Internship Program, another partnership with the Victorian Bar. Last year, you and your chambers organised the African Australian Legal Network's mooting competition, involving moots across several registries and involving 15 judges of our court. Now, I'm leaving to others an account of your cases and no doubt some stories. So if my account sounds a little pedestrian, can I assure all of you that is the opposite of our collective experience of you as a colleague. You have been one of our most treasured colleagues. You have a deep sense of justice and injustice and you are not afraid to call out injustice. You know the importance of people working together and constructively for the good of an institution, and that is a personal quality that you have modelled during your time on the court. These are the kind of values which have resulted in so many of your colleagues and your friends and your professional and personal family wanting to be present here today. We will all miss you. The Honourable Mark Dreyfus, KC MP, representing the Attorney General for the Commonwealth, I invite you to address the court.
May it please the court. I'd also begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. And I also extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. It is a great privilege to be here on behalf of the Australian Government and the people of Australia to celebrate Your Honour's service as a Judge of the Federal Court of Australia. The Attorney General, the Honourable Michelle Rowland MP, regrets that she cannot be here today to share this occasion with you. She's in Darwin for the Standing Council of Attorneys General. But the Attorney General has asked that I convey the Australian Government's sincere appreciation for the significant and lasting contributions Your Honour has made in your time as a judge of this court. Your Honour retires after 15 years of dedicated service to the court, and today we celebrate your distinguished career. The presence of Your Honour's family, friends and colleagues here today speaks volumes about the legacy of Your Honour's career and the high regard in which you are held, both professionally and personally. May I particularly acknowledge Justices Gordon, Stewart and Jago of the High Court of Australia, just the former Justice of the Court, the Honourable Patrick Keane, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Victoria, Chief Justice Nile, Chief Justice Alstergren of the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia, and Chief Judge Amanda Chambers of the County Court of Victoria. And the great number of eminent people who are here today, and other members of the judiciary who are here today. It's a testament to Your Honour that there is a turnout like this. I'd also acknowledge the presence of Your Honour's loved ones who proudly share this occasion with you, among them your wife Leonie, your son Declan, and excellently, your daughter Katie. Time does not permit a full account of Your Honour's substantial achievements and contributions to the law. So this morning I will focus on just a few of the qualities that have marked your career to date. I have known Your Honour for a very, very long time. I'm going to allay any trepidation Your Honour might be feeling and say, I'm going to go light. Your Honour's late father, Joe, was a significant influence on you, and you inherited his passion for the AFL. I've been reliably told it was one of Your Honour's great regrets that you didn't inherit this sporting gene. However, if the stories from Your Honour's brothers about you hiding out on the dam bank and reading books rather than kicking a footy or doing your farm chores are true, this could go some way to explaining why Your Honour later chose to follow your father into the law rather than football. In 1980, Your Honour was admitted as a legal practitioner in Victoria and worked as a solicitor at the firm of Slater and Gordon. While at Slater and Gordon, you learned from a number of respected solicitors in the legal profession, such as the late Michael Higgins, a former judge of the County Court of Victoria, as well as Jenny Lush and Herman Borenstein KC, who were partners of the firm at the time. In 1990, Your Honour was made partner. In 1996, Your Honour moved to Maurice Blackburn as a partner. And in 1998, you established Maurice Blackburn's class action practice. Your Honour was one of the pioneers of the class action jurisdiction in Australia, and the matters run by Your Honour continue to be some of the most significant examples of the class action jurisdiction. Your Honour led the first shareholder class action, that being King and GIO Australia Holdings Limited. Your Honour also led the first 3 anti-cartel and price-fixing class actions. These are some of the many firsts in Your Honour's illustrious career. Your Honour was appointed as a judge of this court in June 2011. And since then, you've served the court in many roles. The Chief Justice has listed some of them, but particularly as the Principal Class Action Case Manager. I'm told that Your Honour is particularly fond of the ACCC and TPG Internet decision. It was one of Your Honour's first judgments. I'm going to wallow in this for a bit. Although Your Honour's decision was overturned on appeal in the full court, it was reinstated. I'll repeat that. It was reinstated by the High Court. In the High Court's decision, the heading above, I told you I was going to wallow, Your Honour. In the High Court's decision, the heading above paragraph 45 reads, and I quote, "The approach of the primary judge was correct." I have it on good authority that at every judge's drinks for at least a year afterwards, Your Honour found a way of mentioning that heading. And it does have a satisfying ring to it. I would like to particularly recognise Your Honour's contribution to class action jurisprudence in Australia. Your Honour has focused on ensuring this important tool for access to justice is protected as a mechanism for effectively dealing with mass civil wrongs. As a member of the full court in Moneymax and QBE Insurance Group, Your Honour considered and approved the first common fund order. The principles set out there have been applied in every superior court in Australia. Your Honour was also a member of the full court in Parkin and Boral Limited, which answered important procedural questions about class closure. This was a significant decision for class action case management. Your Honour was also involved in significant decisions involving Indigenous communities, both in relation to 3 class actions regarding unpaid or stolen wages in the 1930s to the 1960s and in native title cases. If I can turn to some of Your Honour's personal qualities, Your Honour's parents were social, community-minded and involved in community affairs, including First Nations communities. It's unsurprising then that Your Honour's friends and colleagues speak so highly of your passion for justice, your compassion and your empathy. Those essential judicial qualities have served you well throughout your career. Your Honour's leadership is informed by an extraordinary work ethic, intellect and humanity. Your Honour has also been described as a loyal colleague and friend. Your kindness and generosity make you a highly valued and respected mentor. It's no surprise that Your Honour has been part of many firsts throughout your career. It's been shown in some of Your Honour's other hobbies and interests. I said I was going to go live. Your Honour's competitive spirit comes out in all that you do and was particularly apparent in a mountain bike race against your fellow judge, Justice Bromberg. You were not content with overtaking Justice Bromberg, who had suffered a punctured wheel and carried his bike to the finish line. After passing Justice Bromberg with no apparent sympathy for his predicament, you tried to have him disqualified for failing to bring both wheels across the finish line. It has been insisted that I qualify this story and say that your win on that occasion was not a rule, but rather a rare exception to the rule. I'm sure Your Honour will take some time in retirement to smell the roses. And as a mad, one-eyed Geelong supporter, I suspect Your Honour will be closely watching the remainder of this season to see where Geelong finishes on the ladder. I'm told that Your Honour will be enjoying cooking, travel, food, golf, bike riding and spending time with friends and family, most particularly your children, Katie and Declan, their partners and your granddaughter, Mia. Your Honour, it has been a great privilege to participate in today's celebration of your outstanding career and your many contributions to the legal profession and this court. You leave this court having left it all on the field. Your Honour, on behalf of the Attorney-General, the Australian Government and the Australian people, I thank you for the extraordinary contributions you've made to the court and wish you all the very best as you commence a new chapter in your life. May it please the court.
Thank you. Ms. Ryan, President of the Victorian Bar Association and representing the Australian Bar Association.
May it please the court, I too acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, and I also pay my respects to their elders past and present. And I also acknowledge the many current and former judicial officers who are present here this morning. It is my great privilege to appear today on behalf of the Victorian Bar and the Australian Bar Association to farewell Your Honour as a judge of this court. The President of the Australian Bar Association, Michael Izzo SC, regrets that he's unable to attend and has asked me to convey the gratitude and warm wishes of the bars of Australia. When Your Honour was appointed to this court in 2011, you had spent more than 30 years in the law without once signing the bar roll. The bar has decided on balance not to hold that against you. And in truth, the bar needed no persuading. At Your Honour's ceremonial welcome, this court was told of a senior counsel's verdict that Your Honour was a rare lawyer who had the guts and had a go. Those members of the bar who had been briefed by Your Honour knew precisely what the court was getting. Technical ability, an eye for the big picture, a rare way with people and a prodigious work ethic. The bar was confident Your Honour would make a very good judge. Your Honour did not take long to prove the bar right. And we are not alone in this assessment. One tribute reached us from a former Slater and Gordon colleague who went on to other things. The former Prime Minister, Julia Gillard AC, whom Your Honour christened Hoolie, or sometimes Hoolia, names she reports you and your wife Leonie use to this day, describes a country lad made good, someone who had nicknames for all, a mischievous sense of fun and a fierce loyalty to his mates. But anyone who underestimated the larrikin, she warns, did so at their peril. Your Honour has, she says, one of the finest legal minds she has ever encountered, quick, forensic, analytical. The guts, the go and the fine legal mind mentioned at your welcome had in fact already changed our profession when Part 4A of the Federal Court of Australia Act introduced a modern class action procedure into this court in 1992. Its early uses were halting. As a solicitor, Your Honour saw, before almost anyone else, that the procedure had a much wider potential. You took the risk of running the first successful shareholder class action, the GOI class action, in the days before litigation funding, when the prevailing view was that such cases could not be done. The settlement that followed, the largest in Australian history at that time, got everyone's attention. And the consequences are now all around us. This court's demonstration of the effectiveness of the class action procedure has seen it adopted by the various state Supreme Courts. Across the country, class actions today span an enormous range of subject matters. We are told that class action settlements in the past financial year alone were worth in the order of $1.4 billion. It is not often that a member of the solicitor's branch builds a practice area for barristers, but there it is. On the bench, Your Honour has been at the very centre of this jurisdiction, and Your Honour's rulings, interlocutory at trial and on appeal, together with those of Justice Beach and Justice Lee, have shaped class action practice in this country. Fairness has been the constant. Counsel who appeared for respondents, that is, against the interest Your Honour once represented as a solicitor, describe you as relentlessly fair and an absolute pleasure to appear before. A judicial colleague puts it another way, Your Honour could see through humbug. Your Honour's imperviousness was once tested in open court. Word had spread in Your Honour's early years on the bench, as we've heard, that more than one of your judgments had been reversed by the full court, only for Your Honour to be vindicated in the High Court. So, when a dispute came before you over whether a property website could advertise itself as having Australia's best app, counsel resisting the claim, a certain Dr. McAvoy, now Your Honour's colleague Justice McAvoy on this court, submitted that such superlatives are mere puffery, on which no sensible reader relies. After all, he offered, given Your Honour's recent record in the High Court, some might describe Your Honour as the best judge. And what really would that convey? We are told Your Honour was entirely unmoved by the flattery, which rather proved counsel's point. Your Honour has been described as considerate to a degree frequently remarked upon of the ordinary people who appeared before you. In the robo-debt class action, when a large number of group members wished to object to the proposed settlement, the conventional course would have been to deal with their complaints on the papers. Your Honour instead invited a number of them into the witness box to tell their stories. They left feeling heard and respected, and the court still rose on time. Your Honour has never been one for judicial airs. In the long-running stolen wages class action, Your Honour travelled to the Kimberley to take evidence from elderly First Nations witnesses. During an adjournment, one witness who encountered Your Honour in the court's least ceremonial room, the men's, saw no reason not to ask then and there about his witness attendance money. Your Honour paused and gently directed him to the proper official. That ease served Your Honour well, as over the years you also became an experienced native title judge and determined some of the most complex matters brought to this court. Those close to Your Honour say you have found this work among the most profound of your career. In presiding over native title matters, you displayed deep empathy, putting Indigenous witnesses at their ease while keeping practitioners on their toes. At all times, Your Honour engaged with the issues, the evidence and the parties with full attention and close study. The Native Title Bar records its appreciation of Your Honour's service. Your Honour's chambers have been a formative place for bright young lawyers. Your former associates describe themselves as a kind of court family, gathering for dinners at which Your Honour greets guests at the door in an apron before disappearing into the kitchen. Like any family, it has shared its celebrations and on occasion its harder days, and Your Honour has held it together through both. The bar has one further claim on Your Honour, and his name is Declan. Your son was drawn to the law because he wanted to be like his father, and in time resolved to come to the bar. We understand Your Honour's first response on hearing Declan's intention was to suggest he remain a solicitor. He is now in his 4th year of practice in employment, industrial and class action work, and Your Honour could not be prouder. Your daughter Katie remains a solicitor specialising in medical negligence and sexual harassment law. For the time being, the bar will have to be content with one Murphy out of 2. Declan says he has learned from his father chiefly by watching him to treat people with respect, to recognise the dignity in others, and to do it all with humour. He also reports that Your Honour, as we've heard, having taken up mountain bike riding later in life, is rarely without an injury of some kind. Your most recent outing with Justice Bromberg ended in 3 fractured ribs and 2 fractured vertebrae, and the downhill results against His Honour have inflicted further damage to the bones occasionally, but to the ego, we are told, routinely. Your Honour, it is given to few lawyers to help build an area of law, and to fewer still to then shape its jurisprudence from the bench. Your Honour has done both. Even by the standards of those here assembled, Your Honour has had a structural impact on the law of this country. At your welcome, Your Honour told this court you believed in access to justice that was real rather than theoretical. That is what Your Honour leaves behind. On behalf of the Victorian Bar and the Australian Bar Association, I thank Your Honour for 15 years of distinguished service and wish you and Leonie every happiness in the years ahead. May it please the court.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan. Mr. Ballantyne, President of the Law Institute of Victoria and representing the Law Council of Australia.
May it please the court. I appear on behalf of both the Law Council of Australia and the Law Institute of Victoria to farewell Your Honour as a judge of this court. The LCA President, Tanya Wolff, sends her regards and regrets that she could not be here today. I'd first like to echo and adopt the respectful acknowledgement of the traditional owners of the land on which we gather, expressed by my colleagues, and pay my own respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people with us today. And of course, acknowledge all past and current judicial officers. Your Honour, it's a privilege and a great pleasure to speak today on your retirement from this court. After 15 years of outstanding service, having been appointed on 14 June 2011, we take great pride in the fact that you were the first Victorian solicitor to be appointed to the Federal Court bench. Your appointment, of course, followed a distinguished career as a solicitor, first at Slater and Gordon and then at Morris Blackburn, where you also served as chairman of the firm for 6 years from 2005. You left an indelible mark on both firms. Your Honour was a senior partner at Slater and Gordon, at the head of a team that went on to produce more than its fair share of judges and leaders in the profession, and of course famously one leader of the nation. At Morris Blackburn, you started the class actions practice, which then became a juggernaut. There is no doubt that your drive came from your parents, at least in part. My colleague mentioned your father, Joe, who played for Fitzroy and later captained Tasmania before becoming a very successful country lawyer. But I think it's also important to recognise your mother, Heather, who raised 6 children while also working. With those role models, it is absolutely no surprise that you then developed your famous work ethic. One of those future judges you recruited to Slater and Gordon is now Chief Judge of the County Court, Amanda Chambers. She remembers that time as one of the highlights of her working life. She says that apart from being a remarkable lawyer, Your Honour was a wonderful colleague and mentor, known to be supportive, helpful and kind to all, but above all, fun to work with. Judge Chambers was also impressed with your outstanding ability and capacity for hard work. Like many of the people we spoke to, she also remarked on your competitiveness at all levels, whether it was professional or recreational. And I think it's becoming a bit of a theme of these speeches. When asked what you might choose to do after retirement, Judge Chambers had no suggestions except to say she felt certain it would involve competition. At this point, I'd probably counsel, Your Honour, that being a grandparent is not a competition, and the people you meet at the playground are unlikely to take kindly to being challenged to a toddler race. At Morris Blackburn, colleagues like Rebecca Gilsonen remembered you as hardworking, determined, and as someone with a keen sense of fairness and justice. You also cared very deeply about the people doing the work and also had a fantastic sense of fun. Rebecca said that you were always the ringleader of any social activity. On that point, I was working at the firm over this period and so of course have all the details, but I am bound by the Chief Justice's direction to keep this to 5 minutes, and so sadly we don't have any time. But your good friend and fellow judge of this court, Justice Bromberg, told us that you always stood out, even in your very early days at Slater and Gordon. He said that you had exceptional legal qualities and terrific personal skills, all of which made you stand out in the crowd. He said that it was also quite unique what you managed to do, creating Australia's leading class action plaintiff practice from scratch. As a St Kilda supporter, he tends to think that he's got the raw end of the stick in the footy stakes, and according to him, that has been the hardest part of your long friendship. While we're talking about football, I should mention that your longtime friend and Supreme Court Justice Andrew Watson notes that you're also a bad winner if Geelong is winning. Having a number of Geelong fans in my family, I'm going to draw an inference and assume that you are also a bad loser. Justice Watson added that Your Honour has had quite an extraordinary career. You've managed to reinvent yourself on 4 separate occasions across various jurisdictions, and he sees that as a testament not only to lots of hard work, but also an innovative capacity to embrace change and challenges. He said that the crowning glory was the pleasure you have given those who you have worked with along the way by having fun. Your sense of the ridiculous always made it enjoyable to work with you, even in the most difficult cases. But for all your talents, Justice Watson did mention that numbers are not your strong suit. One large class action was close to settlement when you firmly told the other side that your client would not settle for less than 7 figures. This was apparently news to your client, who was looking for 100 million rather than 1. This numerical dyslexia clearly did not prevent you becoming one of the leading class action judges in the country. Justice McAvoy also said that Your Honour has become an experienced native title judge, noting your significant decision in this area in Briggs and the state of Victoria. It was a fascinating case and one that I wish we had time to do justice here. Beyond your career, your family has always been an important focus for Your Honour, and I'd also like to acknowledge your family who are with us today, your wife Leonie, and obviously Katie and Declan, who, as we've heard, have navigated successful careers in the law. After graduation, both Katie and Declan have worked at Morris Blackburn, Declan has left us, but we are quite happy to keep Katie in the solicitor's branch. I'm told that you and Leonie are also obsessed with your first granddaughter, Mia, and will be happy to share photos and videos of her with anyone who asks at morning tea. In fact, I understand that when Katie knocked on your door earlier this week, having made a surprise trip back from London for this event, Your Honour's first thought was to ask where Mia was and whether she was coming. At this point, Katie realised that her only value now was facilitating access to the grandchild, which I know from experience is something of a rite of passage for all new parents. Beyond the recreational time on the bike, you and Leonie have each also contributed time and energy to good causes. You've both given more than 20 years to Kids First Australia, formerly the Children's Protection Society, where Your Honour was on the board and served as president, although perhaps slightly outshone by Leonie's 27 years and counting of service. The organisation, which is now in its 130th year, raises funds and runs programs aimed at addressing family violence and reducing harm to children. Your Honour, what is clear from talking to those who know you is that you have three essential qualities for a good judge in spades: compassion, empathy, and humanity. And I think it's appropriate to finish on a reflection about Your Honour from inside the court. Those who work with you day to day have told us that you are a true egalitarian, someone who genuinely believes that all people deserve to be treated equally, with the same rights and the same respect. And importantly, that belief is not just confined to your judgments. It's there in how you treat people. And whether you are being introduced to someone from the registry or someone from IT, we are told that the first thing you say is simply, "Please call me Bernard." Your Honour, the people of Australia have been well served by your long and dedicated service to this court, and we thank you for your wisdom and immense contribution to the law, and warmly wish you and your family the very best for the future. May it please the court.
Thank you, Mr. Ballantyne. Justice Murphy, I invite you to reply. Please try not to be too competitive.
Thank you, Mr. Ballantyne. Thank you all for coming today. I join in the acknowledgement to the people of the Eastern Kulin Nation and their elders past and present. I'm humbled by the presence of so many friends and family and colleagues today. So I just want to start with something important. Just looking around the room, I think there's more people here than came to John Middleton's. It's not important to me, I'm just saying.
I've got to mention though.
It reminds me of the words of the great American actor Sally Fields. They like me, they really like me. There are too many people to acknowledge, but a mixture of protocol, affection and duty demands that I make something of an effort. If I don't mention you, it's because I became overcome. Thank you to the speakers. My friend, the Honourable Mark Dreyfus KC, to my mind, one of the finest Attorneys General Australia ever had. Fiona Ryan, thank you for your kind words. My friend Tom Ballantyne, thank you too. We've known each other a long time. I thank all of the speakers for over-egging the pudding in the traditional way. You needn't worry that I might believe it. All I've got to do is pick up a copy of the Fin Review of the Oz and I'll come straight back to it. I acknowledge those sitting at the bar table. Mr. Blunt for the Australian Government Solicitor, William Edwards KC, who I've had before me in so many class actions, Peter Willis, who I've had before me in so many native title cases in various parts of Victoria and Australia, Rachel Doyle SC, who has not been before me anywhere near enough, but whose advocacy I've always enjoyed. I acknowledge three judges of the High Court, the Honourable Justices Gordon, Jago and Stewart, all former colleagues of this court. You honour me in the court by your presence. By the way, Jane, I think you got a bit lucky to get the nod to go to the High when I was still available. The Honourable Will Alstreghan, Chief Justice of the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia. The Honourable Richard Nile, Chief Justice of the Victorian Supreme Court. and the Honourable Mandy Chambers, Chief Justice of the County Court, judges of the Federal Court, judges of the Supreme Court and Court of Appeal, judges of the County Court, judges of the Federal Circuit Court and Family Court, the Solicitor General Alistair Pound SC, one magistrate, my friend Felicity Broughton, and her husband Brad, and one member of the Fair Work Commission, my friend Kamal Farouk and his wife Mary. I also acknowledge the former judges of this court who have attended today. I acknowledge all of my hard-working associates. They have become friends, and I watch them with pride. I enjoy their achievements, and I'm looking forward, if we have rocking chairs, then to seeing some of the things, great things they can do in the law with a bit of hard work and some heart. I hope their cortisol levels return to normal. Seriously, most of them could have ended up working for Jane Jago or Stephen Gagler and done nothing. But with me, they were Sherpas. They carried the old white guy up the mountain, and I'm very grateful to them. One of them, John O'Peck, after he returned to professional practice, sadly succumbed to mental illness. I'll never forget Jono. I thank my loyal EA, Sarah Krell, who was followed by an excellent executive assistant in Lola Baldwin. Sarah put up with me for more than 10 years, overworked and underpaid. She was the linchpin and a friend, and I thank her for the great work that she did. I worked under 3 Chief Justices, the Honourable Pat Keane, the Honourable James Alsop and the Honourable Debbie Mortimer. I didn't have much time. I gave my last judgment last night at 5 o'clock, so I didn't have much time to write, but I was tempted to give you a little word picture about each of them, but then I realised one of them was sitting next to me, so I better not. Each of them led the court well in their own way, and I thank them for their support and leadership. Throughout my time on the court, Sia Lagos was either the Victorian Principal Registrar or the CEO. This kid came to Australia from Greece, unable to speak English in any proper way. She still can't. Raised in a family with no money, and turned herself into a powerhouse of intellect and connection with people. Although she speaks a mangled form of English, her message always gets through, and we've become good friends. I thank my friend Justice McAvoy for organising my farewell party. If you're not on the list, it's his fault. He's been amazing. His attention to detail when it comes to food is next level. He's never going to be svelte. He loves food too much. Now I've done the acknowledgements. I've got about 3 minutes left. So can I move to the most important person in my life, my long-suffering wife, Leonie. We've been together for approaching 50 years, and if you know me at all, that hasn't been easy for her. I don't deserve her, but she's still here. I owe Leonie more than most of you know. She's the lioness who always has my back. She's supported me, raised our children when I wasn't there, been kind, warm, generous, caring and loving, while I have, not all the time, been a selfish prick. Better stop now or she will leave me. Leonie, I'm no longer going to be working nights and weekends, so we're going to go to health spas and wineries and lunches and boutique hotels. I love you, and I promise in the next life I'm coming back as a conveyancer. My brother, Dr. Dan, is here with his partner, Dr. Lee, my brother-in-law, Dave, and too many of my in-laws to mention. There's a lot of McNichols here. As a family, they're much more together than the crazy Murphys. My children, Katie and Dec, are both here. Katie is a wonderful young lawyer and mother of an almost 3-year-old Mia. I did get a great surprise last Sunday to find out she'd flown back from London 30 hours in economy. I thank her from the bottom of my heart for doing so. It's been great having her here, and I thank her husband Rahul for looking after Mia. Katie's returning to Australia in January, and we're looking forward to being together again. Declan and his partner Kezia are here. They're a lovely couple. He's a young barrister. He hasn't put a foot wrong in the law so far. The only thing he hasn't done yet is provide me with some grandchildren. That surely must be coming soon. I'm so proud of my children. They're both really smart, both smarter than both their parents. They're good people with big hearts who care about the world and want to help making it as good as it can be. To my colleagues sitting around me, thank you for making my time in this court so stimulating, so rewarding, so fulfilling, and occasionally so much fun. So many of you have become real friends, and we need to work to make sure we don't become strangers. This is a wonderful institution. It's collegiate, hardworking, and inspiring. It's a group doing their absolute damnedest to fill an important role we have in society. Truthfully, I've never really felt I belonged, but I got the job done. I don't think Sir Owen Dixon's turning over in his grave wondering whether I'm going to steal his judicial legacy. But I think I've done all right as a judge. What you can know is I left nothing on the field. This court got everything I had to give, and I'm grateful for the opportunity I was given to serve the community. Plainly, having regard to the speeches, my two favourite areas of law have been class actions and native title. The availability of the class action procedure. It's good to move away from emotional things. I did enjoy something at the start when Michael Lee nearly got sent to the kiddie table. But it didn't happen. The availability of the class action procedure has been under attack since inception. There have been so many government inquiries into the system. The opposition from the business lobby has been never ending. What I tried to do as a practitioner and a judge is to ensure that it was fair and equitable. That is, it worked. It needs to work for both sides. If it's going to be sustainable and survive, it needs to be fair. And this court has played a very important role in building a working class action mechanism. One of the speakers mentioned some of the important judges, but there's more than those three. Judges around the country have picked up the baton and are running with it and keeping the regime operating in a fair way. I do a fair amount of lecturing and speaking around the world in relation to class actions, and the problems with the different systems around the world are many. Some look beautiful on paper, but no one really gets access. Some are too easy to enter and have no punishment for those who bring unmeritorious actions in, and you develop plaintiff excesses. I think our system's in a Goldilocks moment. It's just about right. It's not too plaintiff friendly. There are strong disincentives against bringing unmeritorious cases, and it's not too restrictive. Plenty of good cases are brought. And can I say something in this context about the Supreme Court of Victoria? It's the only court in Australia with contingency fees in class actions. That experiment might have gone horribly wrong. It didn't. It's working because the judges of that court, particularly Justice Lisa Nichols, have done a magnificent job with a steady hand, keeping the system sustainable. She's not alone in that, but the judges of that court should be very proud of their work in this area. Of course, our class action system is too expensive. Of course, it's too slow. Of course, it's not perfect. But if that was the test, we wouldn't have a legal system at all. To my mind, our class action system provides real, broad-based, practical access to justice. And I leave it in the capable hands of the judges of this court and the Supreme Court to nurture it and protect it. It's genuinely important. The other area I greatly enjoyed working in is native title work, and working on 3 very large Aboriginal stolen wages cases. Sometimes when I hear an acknowledgement to country, when I'm feeling a bit emotionally labile, this morning was one of those times, I think of my experiences around the country, holding hearings in deserts, in cafes and tents. The chief never gave me a gig sitting on a boat in the Torres Strait Islands. She took those. But I think of all the wonderful First Nations people that I've met. 64 years ago, a young Aboriginal girl, Pam McGee, was brought into my family as a foster child. My parents were community minded and always tried to take a couple of foster kids from the local home whenever we went on holidays, as if 5 kids wasn't enough for my mother. That year it was Pam. I was 6 and she was 6.5. She never left and we adopted her. We went to Kangaroo Ground Primary School together and Hurstbridge High School together. Through Pam's eyes, I got to see how hard it was to be one of the stolen generation. Her card was pretty much marked from the start, and our lives have had very different trajectories. So much of what happens to people in life is an accident of birth, and the job of the law in part is to try and restore the balance. So some of my most joyous moments in law and some of the greatest sadnesses have been hearing cases involving First Nations people. I heard some evidence when I was doing the stolen wages class actions around Australia about how we treated First Nations people, and it will stay with me forever. I thank the profession. Good to get off emotional things, for its integrity and its quality, the independence and the quality of advocacy in this court is a foundation stone of our system of civil justice. The power of executive government, wealth and privilege, vested interest on both sides, racism and all the other isms cannot be dealt with without a legal profession of the quality, independence and strength that we have in this state, indeed around the country. And we also need the profession to stock this court with fine minds and hopefully also with some big hearts and some capital J judgment. There's a lot in that. We have a lot of fine minds. We need people with judgment. But don't expect to be sitting in the club lounge smoking a cigar. You too will have to learn how to drink from a fire hose of work. Performing this role has been a privilege of my life. This is a wonderful institution, performing very important work. I've done my bit and I trust you all are going to do your bit. We have a lot to be proud of in Australia and still a lot of work to do. I trust you all to do it. One last thing before I go. Everyone says, what are you going to do? It could be famous last words, but I think I can live with becoming a feather duster. I'm looking forward to having some long lunches, going on holidays, and when I'm refreshed doing a little bit of work in the class actions and native title space, I'm going to enjoy reading things that aren't 400-page legal submissions, and I'm available for lunch. I'm going to start with my old mate Ross Stevenson and John Middleton, and I might even invite friends Justice McAvoy and Will Hand along, although they're sick, it's still going to be hamsters in the wheel. And I'm getting back on the bike, and I'm going to get into some serious training. I'm going to funnel a bit my old friend Morty Bromberg up the hill. Thank you all for coming.
You can clap. Court will now adjourn.
All stand, please. The full court of the Federal Court of Australia is now adjourned.